Hello, I'm Nelson Brigone in the Office of Field Policy and Management, and I would like to welcome you to our training on FPM Significant Event, Emergency, and Disaster Incident Reports. Today, we will be discussing our field and headquarters reporting processes for emergencies, disasters, and public safety-related incidents. I am joined today by Tony Hebert. Mr. Hebert is our FPM Disaster Recovery Coordinator for all 10 regions. He will walk you through our reporting process and provide an update on what you need to submit for each section of our incident report. We're also joined today by John Ussery from HUD's Office of Disaster Management and National Security, who will discuss the HUD Emergency Operations Center's daily report and HUD's disaster situation report for large-scale events. Mr. Ussery will explain the relationship between your incident reports and the department's report. If you have questions related to our reporting process or this webcast, please send an email to Mr. Hebert. He will ensure that all your questions get routed appropriately and answered. Mr. Hebert, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Brigone, and thank you everybody for watching our video today. We're very happy to talk with you about our incident reporting processes, both what we do to route up information incidents in the field and how that links into the larger reporting processes at headquarters. The Office of Field Policy and Management, FPM, is responsible for field coordination of emergency preparedness, response, and recovery efforts under the existing departmental protocols and our authorities in the field. And under those responsibilities, we're tasked with submitting to headquarters information on office closures and emergencies and disasters that may impact our operations. Once those are put together and routed up to headquarters, it's shared across broader HUD leadership, including the Office of Disaster Management and National Security. And as Mr. Brigone noted, Mr. John Ussery is part of the training today to talk about their role in terms of the larger HUD disaster and emergency reporting process through the HUD Emergency Operations Center and departmental disaster situation reports that are created for the Deputy Secretary and other folks after major disasters. Next slide, please. We get a lot of questions from our field teams about what triggers submission of an FPM significant event and incident report related to disasters and emergencies. Really, we leave that up to the field office directors in each jurisdiction to make that judgment based upon what they're seeing in terms of the local impacts. But basically, what we're wanting you to do is to make that judgment if you are seeing significant property destruction across impacted communities, including our inventory, if there's any threat to HUD operations staff. And this is where we often see submissions of this report when we have violence in our sites, protests in front of our buildings, murders, other deaths, things that speak to public safety issues in addition to disasters and emergencies. And then two, if there's something that may trigger broader HUD engagement for recovery. So we may not have significant impacts or there may not be threats to our operations, but because of what happened in a community or across communities, there may be a role for us to play in terms of supporting housing recovery and other recovery efforts. These are things that when you're considering as a field office director, should we submit a report for something that happened, check off these elements before you say, well, I'm going to send this up to headquarters. Routine office closures should not be submitted to Mr. Brigone through an incident report. Those are things that you can just send an email to us about and let us know the circumstances around that closure and the justification. I'm going to get into that a little bit more next. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of submitting the report and the reporting chain, we have issued out some instructions and guidance on how to complete the incident reports. We've also provided an email template. The idea is that you would follow those instructions, complete the template, and insert it in the body of an email so Mr. Bragone can submit it around to leadership without us having to mess with the attachment and doing that ourselves. So we get a lot of folks who submit their incident reports as an attachment to their email. We'd greatly appreciate if you could include it in the body of the email so we can just forward it on with whatever minor edits we do. And remember, too, that we're looking for these within the first 24 hours after the event, if possible. Even if you don't have your arms around all the impacts, we need to know about what happened. If it's something that you have decided rises to the level of reporting to headquarters leadership, then you should do that as quickly as possible, ideally within the first 24 hours. You may not know a lot of the HUD impacts for several days, but letting leadership know that something happened, it may have impacts to HUD operations and our grantees, maybe even displaced families you're hearing. These are good things to make people aware of, and then as the details become more solid, you can submit additional reports with those revisions. Ultimately, this will culminate in a final closeout report where we put the matter to bed in terms of our tracking and follow-up to resolve whatever issues there may have been post-disaster, post-emergency. For example, if we have HUD displacement, if HUD families are displaced, we would typically continue reporting through the incident reports, follow-up reports on that matter until that issue was resolved, either through the people reoccupying units that were rehabilitated, and they could go back to what their original unit, or they have temporary housing in place that bridges them to the completion of those units. It could be months later. So that's an important issue to make sure we have our arms around before we stop reporting. Typically, for most incident reports, you're talking about maybe one report and you're closing it out with that one submission because there's very little impact to our operations. In other cases, as I noted, it could be extended out for weeks as we work on the rehousing issue. Now, the incident reports should be sent to Mr. Bragone, and you need to copy me, Tony Hebert, on those submissions. And what I will do is I'll review it, and I may have follow-up questions. We may want things added to the report, and Mr. Bragone and I work in tandem to then make sure that what you've submitted is final, and he will route that around to headquarters leadership. The one thing to remember is that the report is internal to FPM until Mr. Bragone approves and distributes it to other divisions at headquarters. So we understand that you're going to be getting information from all the different program offices, and you need to do that, and we expect that. But we don't want to see the report routed up to other elements at headquarters before Mr. Bragone gets it, approves it, and then does that himself. So he's the vector through which we distribute the report at headquarters, including moving it over to the HUD Emergency Operations Center, which also does its own blast distribution of what's happening in terms of HUD operations related to emergency disasters to all the leadership and program directors at HUD headquarters and most of you in the field. Next slide, please. I want to walk you quickly through each of the sections of the report and just highlight some things that we've seen that maybe could be done differently in some cases, things that you should watch in your own reports to make sure you don't do, because if there are things that we end up having to edit out or fix when you submit this, and our goal is really to get everyone to the point where you're submitting this to us, it goes to Mr. Bragone, and we have no reason to do any editing. We just forward it around to leadership. That's our goal. So the first section of this report is really the overview, the what, the where, the who, the when of the incident report. You've got impacted region, the RA, the impacted field office, who's your point of contact on this for follow-up. Public affairs may want to get in touch with someone on the ground. It doesn't need the follow-up point of contact does not need to be the field office director. That is often what we see in these reports. It can also be a senior management analyst who's handling this for the field office director in a particular office. So that's entirely up to you in the field in terms of how you want to handle that. Part of the overview is a general description, okay? This should be short, 5 short bullets. This is just basic information about the event, okay? And each time you submit this report, you're going to want to review that general information to ensure that it continues to work with what you're submitting. If you're submitting your 7th report, talking about this storm moving across the panhandle of Florida, for example, when it's already moved across, it shouldn't be in there in that way. You want to tweak that as you go forward and probably reducing the amount of detail about the actual hazard and focusing more on what's happening in the state or your jurisdiction, around the response and recovery effort. So the general description can change, should be short, and just pay attention to make sure that it's still relevant to the larger report you're sending in over the term of this reporting process. Next slide, please. Okay, this is an important section, impacts to HUD facilities and staff. Typically, we see no damages to field offices. Sometimes we have it after Sandy. We had some significant impacts. Those offices were closed. You want to get your arms around that, make sure that you know your operating capacity in the office, not just in terms of the physical structure, but how many people are going to have to do situational or emergency telework. You need in this report to tell us if that's in place. You need to tell us if you've activated the COOP. You need to make sure there were no impacts to HUD staff. It's critical that we canvass all of our employees in that field office and make sure everyone's okay. There have been times where our staff themselves are victims. They've been displaced, and we want to make sure that we report that up the chain so that folks are aware of it. Ideally, within the first several reports, we have our arms around issues related to the staff and field office. So we're talking, first 24 to 72 hours, we're wanting to see you take full account of those staff and report that. There's also a section here to talk about any hot issues. 5 short bullets. Often we don't see much here because, again, we don't have many impacts to the field offices, haven't had many staff impacted historically, but you're going to want to talk about things like, what are the hot issues if you've been displaced from the field office? What are the reconstitution issues in terms of coming back? If there were staff impacted, if you were still looking for staff, you're going to want to talk about that. So very short bullets about impacts to HUD facilities and staff. That's part 2. Next slide, please. Part 3 is impacts to HUD programs. This is the section that probably changes the most over the course of the reporting process. It's the piece that lengthens out the reporting process because this is where longer-term issues typically are needing to be resolved for HUD. And so this is the piece that probably evolves the most if you're talking about a multi-report incident. And what you're wanting to do here is capture across the program offices in your jurisdiction, were there impacts to HUD programs, okay? And you want to look at what are those impacts, what are the hot issues, are there any cross-cutting program impacts here, and especially, are there any rehousing needs, and what is the status of those needs? So, for example, in PIH, we've got each division listed here. You're talking about the principal divisions here that have either inventory or some role in housing capacity within HUD. So PIH housing, CPT, FHEO, those are the ones we're principally looking at here. And you want to know, okay, so how many units were impacted, okay, and how many of these units had severe impacts that resulted in displacement? And if it did result in displacement, you want to talk about how many of those people are currently housed and where. So, for example, you might say there were 20 public housing families displaced, 15 are living with family, 5 are in a Red Cross shelter, PIH is working with the public housing authorities on the schedule for them to reoccupy their units. You want to provide that kind of detail, very short information, summary information for leadership. Remember, program officers are reporting this up their chain of command as well. But this report is going to be distributed across all the leadership, including the deputy secretary. You want to make sure it's consistent with the PIH's reporting up their chain of command. So you want to be in contact with them, throughout this process, not just at the beginning to get updates, as you also submit your updates. And you would do that for every impacted program. In some cases, you're going to get back information from housing or PIH or CPD that says, look, yeah, we had units impacted, but we're talking about some broken windows, some shingles. Those are minor damages. You wouldn't even need to deal with them in a lot of detail. You could simply say we had minor impacts, no displacement, and that would likely be your final report. Again, what we're really talking about here is, are the damages extreme enough that we see displacement across our inventory? Most everything else will be addressed in time. People should be aware of it, but not the same level of urgency as when we have folks displaced. And by the way, when we have people displaced, that starts to trigger more work for us with the state, more work for us with FEMA, even if there is an admission assignment from them for us to work with them under the National Response Framework. They call this non-Stafford event work in some cases where, if there wasn't a presidential disaster declaration, FEMA still gets involved in coordinating with some of the federal partners around things like, well, there was a very small disaster, the state's trying to figure out what HUD is doing with some of their displaced families. FEMA may step in and start talking with us about what we're doing. So be prepared for those kinds of things. If we have displacement, there's a greater likelihood that we're going to be pulled into discussions with our interagency partners around what we are doing about that. Now, in terms of resources for you in doing this work, obviously we have the HUD Emergency Operations Center, rich source of information for you. You should all be on that distribution, and that is going to give you a lot of good updates on what FEMA is doing, what states are doing. You've got the FEMA daily reports. We've asked all of you to sign up for these daily reports. You go to FEMA's website, you sign up for be on the distribution for your region. We have the NOAA Storm Prediction Center reports, which are very helpful. They'll show you with fairly good detail where tornadoes, where significant weather has hit in your jurisdictions. So use these resources. There's also a product that a lot of field office directors use called Got It, which Tom Leach, our Columbus field office director, has advocated for many years. And there are a number of other web-based resources within HUD that we can help you connect to identify where impacts are and what's going on in your jurisdiction around these impacts. So that's part 3, impacts to HUD programs and what we're doing to resolve those impacts. Next slide, please. For each of the incidents you're reporting on, you're going to complete sections 1 through 3, okay? However, section 4 is different. The only time you ever send Part 4, which is the HUD Disaster Situation Report, is if it's requested by headquarters. If Mr. Bragone or myself or David Zaya, who's our disaster chief in the Office of Disaster Management and National Security, if any of those parties request that report, then yes, you would submit it. Otherwise, you don't need to worry about it. This section is used, and John is going to talk about this next. This section is used to help the HEOC and the Office of Disaster Management and National Security build out the departmental disaster situation report for the Deputy Secretary and our disaster management group that would convene after a major disaster. So you're talking here about a major, large-scale disaster that is possibly even impacting multiple states. So we could have multiple field offices submitting in reports that would be aggregated into the departmental report by the HEOC. What would you submit when that's requested? Okay, so usual suspects here, top 3 priorities for your region and the impacted field offices. Real short, top 3 priorities. The next piece is coordination, if any, with federal, state, and local partners, okay? Large disasters, you're going to see quite a bit of coordination early on. As far as hurricane, you're probably even going to see that before the hurricane. And by the way, as we did last year with Hurricane Joaquin, thankfully nothing happened, we convened the DMG and started providing some of these reports up to the HEOC and leadership ahead of the hurricane. So this is something that might even be triggered before an event if we're working to coordinate with folks around a large disaster that we see building off the coast. Now, also in this section, we're going to report on the status of mission assignments from FEMA when it's requested, and if there's any HUD issues or logistical needs for the region around those mission assignments. In addition to this, we're also going to have reports from our Joint Field Office staff. So there's going to be a lot of different elements being pulled together if the departmental disaster report is being generated for the Deputy Secretary. In terms of what the Field Office Director would do, these are the main elements, but again, there would be some other reporting pieces that we pull in from staff who might be working under the Field Office Director's umbrella at the Joint Field Office to assist in coordinating with other federal agencies. That is our incident report. Again, it is for emergencies, disasters, other kinds of hazards and public safety issues that you as a Field Office Director feel could undermine our operations, may result in us having to work within the interagency across our partners on recovery issues. Basically, any kind of exposure and longer-term commitments and issues that you think leadership needs to be aware of in your jurisdiction. And as Mr. Bragone said at the front end, I'm available to assist you with these reports as needed. Simply email me, call me. I'm here to support you and provide you with technical assistance across this effort. With that, I'm going to hand it off to John Usery. He's going to talk to you about the HEOC and the different reporting elements that your incident reports plug into up at headquarters. John?
Thank you, Tony. Hello, my name is John Usery. I work in the Office of Disaster Management and National Security. I am the HUD Emergency Operations Center Watch Officer. Today, I would like to talk to you about the HEOC Daily Operations Summary and our HUD Situation Report. The HEOC Daily Summary provides current impact to HUD operations. We provide a summary of significant national events that are disaster-focused, a summary of disaster declaration activity. In particular, disaster declaration activity, it is the major disaster declarations that we will include in our report. The major disaster declarations allows for the Stafford Act to provide protocols for funding for any mission assignments that may be issues. We cover national weather overview in the report. Our daily operations summary is published each workday, Monday through Friday, at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Critical information requirements for our HEOC Daily Operations Summary includes a section for summarizing impacts to HUD operations, things such as operating status, impact to HUD programs and mission. This information is gathered from the FPM situation report and any updates we receive. Information that is not necessary to report would be things such as weather forecasts, impacts to local community beyond HUD programs. This information is already provided in our daily reports provided from DHS, FEMA, and National Weather Service. The HUD Disaster Situation Report is published during disasters and significant scope and impact and provides incident summary, emergency disaster declarations, priorities for HUD, a regional summary, and program impact summary. Publication cycle is dictated by the event. The regional critical information requirements for the HUD Situation Report. Regional summary section includes 3 areas. Top 3 priorities for the HUD region: employee safety and office closures, including all field offices within the region. Any outreach to state and local or congressional partners. During a disaster that results in the activation of the disaster management team, The HEOC will reach out to the impacted regions to provide this input. Impacts to HUD programs are consolidated and reported through each program office. In comparison, the HEOC reports. Our HUD Disaster Situation Report is published only for large-scale events. We have a defined format and structure and critical information requirement as dictated by the Deputy Secretary. Information is shared with senior leadership and FEMA and is distributed throughout all of HUD. Input solicited by the HEOC includes program impacts provided by each program office. Our HEOC Daily Summary is published each workday. It's less rigid format and structure. It's distributed to senior leadership and throughout HUD. Field input gathered from FPM Situation Report. Does not typically include program impacts to program offices gathered from FPM Situational Reports. This concludes my brief. Mr. Bregon, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ussery. We appreciate the work done by our field office staff to ensure our employees are safe and leadership is appraised of risk to the department. Please continue your diligence across these matters and let us know if you need any technical assistance or support. Mr. Hebert and others on our headquarters team are ready and able to support your efforts. Thank you for your time and commitment.